been walking through Sermon on the Mount. Tonight, we're starting to get into some of the other things on down the line here. And just, I want to kind of set the tone here. As we're talking about these things, we're talking about spiritual matters, right? And I got to say, like, one of the mindsets we have as we look at Scripture and try to apply it to our life, okay? A couple things, no matter where you're at in your faith walk, whether you're completely atheist or whatever, or you've been on fire for the Lord for 50 years, okay? I want you to stop and just in this place, just think to yourself, like, what if what is being said is true? Just ask yourself that question, okay? The thing is like, a lot of times, like, we have to start to look at creating balance in our life through the spiritual lens. Like, a lot of us, we come out of trauma and brokenness and poverty and all sorts of stuff, right? And so, like, we might go through treatment, we might have an answer, we might get sober, we might all of a sudden go the exact opposite and get super healthy, start working out, have a great diet, get a job, I mean, all these other things, right? But then eventually, like, the pendulum has to kind of swing back. We have to start to find a balance between the things that are good in life and where we came from. Okay, so this is where, as we start to look at biblical truth and learn how to apply it to our life, it's like, how does that look in my life, right? I mean, the truth is like, a lot of us probably know people or have known people in our life that they get sober for either the first time or the 15th time, and all of a sudden they're like, I gotta do this, I gotta get a job, I gotta get a place, I gotta get a car, I gotta get right with my kids, I gotta get right with my family, I gotta do all these other things, right? And they do it. They're highly motivated. They get everything that they set their mind to, and then once they have it, it's just a short time before what? Sabotage. Right? We have to learn better. We have to start to look at, like, how am I going to do this for the long run? How am I going to find balance in my life? Not just, hey, look at me, I'm doing great. But like, hey, you know what? I'm struggling through some things. And now I'm fighting for this, but I'm walking the course over time. I'm building strength and endurance, not just a sprint to show everybody that I'm okay by my outward actions, okay? This is the lens that we're starting to look through things at. Sound good, guys? Okay. So, Matthew chapter 6, we're going to go over verses 15 through 24 tonight. The first section is how to fast. And if you're new, you might be looking at like, what the heck does fasting have to do with recovery? You're fasting from drug and alcohol, aren't you? All right, one person, Edwin, got that. Really. You guys are killing me on this summer. Like, I know it's hot out there, but dang. Okay? So, here's what it says. Jesus speaking here, whenever you fast, don't be gloomy like the hypocrites. They disfigure their faces so that their fasting is obvious to people. Truly, I tell you that they have their reward. But when you fast, put oil on your head, wash your face, so that your fasting isn't obvious to others. But your Father who is in secret, and your Father who sees you in secret will reward you. All right. So immediately, we already know from the way that we've been going through Scripture, Jesus is speaking about the heart. Okay? The heart of the matter. Like how you present yourself. Like where your motivation is. Okay? So, he's talking to the guys that would be like acting super pious. Right? They're like disheveling themselves. Like, yeah, man, I'm fasting. I'm doing this great thing for the Lord. Oh, it's just so hard. I'm working through it and all these other things. And they're doing it to get earthly praise. Right? They want to look good in front of others, right? And this is where he says, I tell you, if you do that, you already have your reward. The praise of others, you do not have the praise of God. This is a temporary thing. All right? And so what he's saying is like, if you do this, this is how. All right? Put on your best face when you're around people. You might be struggling through something. All right? But first, we got to start to look at what is fasting. A lot of people, when they hear fasting, the first thing it is, oh man, I can't eat. For a guy like me, that's really hard. I get really crabby and really angry very fast. My wife doesn't like it when I'm like that. Okay? I have like a very short temper when I'm not eating. I can't even make it a day most of the time. It's like dinner time and I'm like, I'll slap a cheeseburger out of a kid's mouth without a problem. Like, you know? Yeah. All right. But here's the thing. Fasting isn't a ritual, all right? What fasting is literally a voluntary time of meditation and getting for a purpose of connecting on a deeper level with God, all right? So it's intentional. Now, it doesn't mean that you just have to stop eating. You can fast from anything. You can fast from TV, social media. You can fast from drugs and alcohol and sex and all sorts of stuff. You can actually do juice fasts where the only thing that you drink is juices, which I've tried, it's weird. Vegetable fasts, cake fast, whatever that is, okay? But here's the thing, the intention of it is, this is where the heart comes in, is in the time that I would normally be doing that, for me, like say I'm not going to be eating lunch, all right? I might take that time instead and intentionally get alone to be with God, seeking after His presence, seeking just for His direction, all right? So I'm willingly putting myself in a position of something that's hard to do. I'm withholding something for myself for a longer term gain, for a longer term benefit, so I can get to know God better. All right? Now, on the front side, it might seem like it sounds crazy. But here's the thing. Every single one of us in this room, if change has been in our life, that change has only come out of what? Depravity, need, suffering, longing for, want, whatever that is. We ain't going to change if we have everything that we want and everything's just peachy keen jelly bean, right? Like, why would you? Okay? So here's a voluntary time of putting yourself in a position before God like, hey, Lord, I'm going to do this. I'm trying to honor you. I need your help. And in that, there is some suffering. Okay? Now, the thing is like as you try to present your best self and you try to go through this, there's a couple of benefits to this, all right? I've got 5 benefits. Number 1, you learn the value of self-discipline, right? Something that's difficult to do. I'm doing something voluntarily that I don't want to do. Right now, I'm self-disciplining myself and trying to get up and go to the gym every day that I say I'm going to go to the gym. It is difficult for me, okay? I'm older, it takes longer, I don't like it, I have to stretch, or I hurt myself. Not cool. All right, I hurt for way longer. But there's value in saying I'm going to do something. I'm going to withhold myself from sleeping as much as I want and waking up whenever I feel. I'm going to get up at this hour and start to do these things in this routine, in which, for me, what's that looking like right now is not just a growing in self-discipline. There's a time even in the gym where I'm sitting there going like, Lord, like, if you don't show up right now, I am really ready to give up. Like, I don't like this. Because it's not like what I remember it. I have to fight to get to where I was. Okay? And then I get to come home and there's a time where I get to sit with my wife and I get to read scripture and we get to pray together before our day. It's a voluntary time of seeking the Lord and doing something that I don't want to do. Starting to eat healthier. Don't want to do that. Had raw beets for the first time the other day and they're still in the fridge. With lemon juice on them. Okay? Second thing is to release us from slavery to a habit. All right? Sometimes you have to intentionally walk away from a habit that you really enjoy. Why? It lets you know that you're not enslaved to that. Like, this is not something that you have to do, that you're tied to. Okay? Another one is the preservation of the ability to do without things. You're going to be okay if you ever come into a position in life where you have to do without. Okay? When you train yourself in this manner, your go-to isn't necessarily like, oh my God, my world's falling apart. Your go-to becomes, the Lord's going to provide. I've seen him do it in these instances. And those come to memory, right? Those directly influence your choices of what you're doing in life. There's also the positive value for health. Okay, fasting from food actually is extremely healthy for you. I've known people here that have fasted when they get sick and they've got skin stuff going on and all sorts of stuff where they'll fast for 5-6 days and then all of a sudden everything's cleared up, their whole system's good to go, and they're great for a while, right? My wife actually started doing this, intermittent fasting. She eats dinner. That's it. She can eat as much as she wants at dinner. It's easier for her because she has that mentality of like an all or nothing, right? But since doing that, she starts to have more energy. She's stronger. She feels more confident, and that works for her. Okay? There's a benefit to fasting. Okay? There's a lot of other health benefits to that. Finally, this also will enhance our appreciation of the things that we do have. Okay? When you go without, it's a lot easier to appreciate the things that God has put in your life. The things that you have access to, the ability in your life to be in community, or whatever that looks like, right? Sound good? Is that enough on fasting tonight? No, you guys want to hear more? Okay, finally we're going on to God and possessions. Verse 19 says, "Don't store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth or rust destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth or rust destroys, and where thieves don't break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." Okay? So 19 through 21. Okay? Ironically, this is somewhat talking about goals. Okay? First and foremost, we got to start to look at where our treasure is. Right? What is it that you have the highest value in life? Okay, what is that thing that you chase after, and if you have it, you're okay for a little bit? Okay? If it's anything that's other than God, it's only temporary. It's like, I love if anybody comes to Rochester Assembly, the pastor gave a message this weekend, and he was talking about something, and he said, if you do this, that's great. It could be business, it could be money, it could be whatever. Congratulations, you'll thirst again, my friend. And I was like, man, that kind of hit me, like, what else am I putting out there? Right? That is above my need for God, okay? So what we're doing here is we're starting to look at our life and say, if everything in my life that I hold of value is earthly, it's of this world, whether it's money, whether it's power, whatever that is, whether it's status, whether it's image, whether it's sobriety, and if it's just that, you'll thirst again, my friend. Your value, the things that you hold valuable, your treasure in your life that your heart is connected to, is temporary. Money comes and goes, power comes and goes, all sorts of stuff comes and goes, even in the span of a lifetime. Okay? So we have to start to think okay, well, what does this mean? If that's just temporary, are those things, can they be good? Yes, in the proper lens. But we also have to start to look at balance. We have to start to look at goals. The short-term goals are the things that we need and desire, and the long-term goals, being the eternal, is also godly treasure, godly values. What does God hold as valuable? All right? Scripture talks a lot about godly values, right? And when it talks about heavenly treasures, these are like matters of character, which we've been talking about. Okay? Development of godly personality, being loving, faithful, trustworthy, honorable, wise, patient, etc. Okay? Those are the kinds of things that we work towards. Does that have direct application to staying sober or dealing with the issues at hand in your life that you struggle with? Yes. How so? Anybody? Working on being faithful, working on being honorable, working on being patient, working on being kind. What value do those have in your life?
Discipline.
Discipline? Yeah. What's that? Integrity. Those things get you out from focusing so much on your own issues and your own problems that just weigh you down, that you get outside of yourself. And you start to look at, how can I serve my brother? How can I help this person or that person? Any of y'all ever hated really doing something good for somebody in need? On the front end, I don't want to. In the rearview mirror, I'm like, man, that was great. How come I don't do this more often? Okay, it like breathes life into me. There's eternal value in that. Okay? We're looking at mindset that can enjoy the great thoughts of God and His creation, all of His creation. Hearts that transcend selfishness by loving others. Okay? So most of us, or a lot of us, we're so attached to the things of this world and the things that we need right now. I want what I want, and I want it right now. If I only had this, my life would be okay. My life would be better, right? It's not that those are bad things, but we're so attached to that we have no capacity to love others. And when we can start to develop a heart of what it actually means to love somebody, to pick up the phone when you don't want to go and meet for coffee, to give somebody $20 at a curb when you really don't want to. Whatever that is, whatever that looks like, okay? We can start to see that once we start to train ourselves in this area, there is godly, biblical, eternal value that keeps giving over time. Believe me, when you're not staring at your biggest struggle in your life day after day after day after day, but you're focusing on something that somebody else says in this book, that God says, put your mind here, set your heart here, put your treasure here, and you start to look at those things and chase after those things, it's like those issues start to get further and further and further away. They seem small and minuscule over time. And you're being filled up and encouraged and grown and matured. It's not like a fight anymore for me to not drink alcohol or not do drugs. It's not a fight for me to not do any of those things anymore. Why? Was it in the beginning? Yeah. Now? No. Because God's removed me so far, given me a different vision to chase after, that poured life into me, that's like a fart in a tornado, man. It's like gone somewhere. Like, I don't even know what that's like. I have to, literally, I don't mean to be crude, but I have to sometimes sit there and think about, like, try to remember, like, what was that like? That thirst, that hunger, that desire for those things. And I'm like, it's almost like watching a movie about myself, but yet it's not me. It's so far in the past. And so I want to encourage you in these things. When you focus on stuff like this, you don't have to know exactly what it looks like in your life. But when you start to, your treasure becomes something else, something new, something that's so much more fulfilling, okay? Look. We get into now Matthew 6:22 and 23. The eye is the lamp to the body. If your eye is healthy, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eye is bad, the whole body will be full of darkness. So the light within you is darkness. How deep is that darkness, right? Jesus is saying here that the light which gets to a man's heart depends on the spiritual state of that individual. What are you chasing after? An eye clouded with lust or envy or covetousness leads only to death. So reading this scripture, it's like, what is in your gaze most of the day? What is it that consumes your thoughts? So a man thinks, so he is. This is other biblical truth. Where you focus is eventually where you're going to go. All right? So when we're looking at spiritual things and our focus is in the fight of like, Lord, I want to develop these things and I need your help. You start to grow in that direction and put distance between you and those other things. But when your focus is all day long on the things that you struggle with and only that, and poor me and depression and anxiety start to mount up, and fear, it's only a matter of time before what? You cave. You break down. Right? How many people in this room have experienced that? Yeah? So it's like, this is truth. Like, we know that. Are you willing to know this too? Life everlasting, peace. Like, there's times in my life I look at this and I'm like, holy cow, like, how did I get here? It just baffles me. This is not something that I did. This is something that I finally listened to somebody and I started pursuing as he equipped me and encouraged me. And he does the same for you. Okay? Finally, we end on this. No one can serve two masters. Either we will hate one or love the other, or we will be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. So the question is, which master will you serve? Jesus himself is saying the number one thing that captivates our heart, creates idolatry, that we put above God is the need for money. Okay? And on the beginning end of that, when I was first in sobriety and I had nothing, if I just had enough to pay rent, I was going to be okay. If I could just pay rent and have smokes and eat some good food, I'd be okay. If I just had a job where I could do this, I'd be okay. It was like continually chasing things, and there wasn't anything wrong with that. But later on, I discovered I would see all these interviews with people who had it all. I mean, everything. They're just blowing wads of cash on stuff and they're amongst the most unhealthy, suicidal, depraved people on the planet. They are lost, they are broken, they are lonely. Even so, most of them don't even have a ton of action. They don't even know what real friendship looks like because everybody in their life wants something from them. So it's a fakeness, right? At least in my life, when I had nothing, I knew that if you were being my friend, you couldn't want anything from me because I was not a nice person and I didn't have any money or possessions. Right? There's genuine friendship there. Okay? So as we start to look at this and we look at the two polar opposites, all right, you can pursue money, but with the right heart, the right vision. Okay? That starts to look something like, Lord, thank you for blessing me with finances and providing for me. Thank you that you helped me pay down my debt. Lord, thank you that you've given me this amount so I can help these people. Thank you. How can I benefit somebody in my life? Do I struggle with this? Yeah, I just told you guys a story a couple weeks ago where I struggled to give somebody $20 who was in my exact same shoes that somebody else gave to me. I didn't even earn it. Right? There is a grip on something there in my life that I need to get rid of. I've got to be willing to let go of finances, and I tell you, it's a blessing. Yeah. All right? Just to kind of prove that point, 1 Timothy 6, 9, and 10 says, but those who want to be rich and fall into temptation, but those who want to be rich fall into temptation, a trap, and many foolish and harmful desires which plunge people into ruin and destruction. For the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil. By craving it, some have wandered away from the faith and pierced themselves with many griefs. Okay? So here's that thing. Pursuing money is okay. Loving money above God. Right. Says right here what's going to happen. All right? And we see evidence for that all throughout the world. Yeah. So, what this is starting to teach us, if we break it down, is we start to look at where is my focus in my life? What are the things that I hold valuable in my life? Do I hold having money more valuable than my relationship with God? What about my relationship with my wife or my kids or the other people in my life? Where do I actually get treasure and fruit from? I can tell you right now, in my life, the treasure and the fruit that I hold most dearest to me is my relationship with my wife and children. Next is with the men that come over to my house for Bible study. The people that I meet at Dunn Brothers for Bible study. The people in this room that I get to come and be around you guys on a Wednesday night. The people at church that's real relationship. The people who call me up and who I can call up and say, hey, look, I'm really struggling. I need some prayer right now. That's valuable to me. That's where my treasure is. You can take my stuff, take my money, take everything. But if you take that, I'm done. I might as well be dead. That's valuable to me. I will not survive that being stolen from me. Okay? My focus has to be on those things. It has to be on what God puts in my life. And I have never regretted it. I have only gotten healing and encouragement out of that. Okay? Sorry if I get a little bit about this, but I got to tell you guys, this is an answer. And the more you start to look at these things, you don't have to know everything. You don't have to do it perfect. You just have to start to take a step. Lord, I need your help. I really don't know about all this. Can you show me one? Can you just grow me and be patient a little bit? Or loving or kind? Can you help me know about you a little bit when I'm struggling? Just start there, okay? So questions tonight. Where's your focus at? Is it inward on the things that you desire? Or is the majority of your focus outward on the people around you? What can you do to serve them, love on them, listen to them, help them? Is it selfish or is it not? Okay? The other one is, what are your long-term and short-term spiritual goals? A lot of us, we got to start to define that on the front end. Short-term, my spiritual goal is I just want to pray for somebody today. Short-term, I want to read my Bible 4 times a week, just like one chapter. Long-term, man, I want to trust in God so much. I want to know God so much that His love comes through me in a way that I don't have to tell you that I'm a Christian. That you just look at the way I might respond to somebody being mean to me and just go what is that dude on? And have to ask the question. So I can say, hey man, ain't no high like the Most High, right? Okay? That's long-term spiritual goals for me. Okay? So think about that for a second. It's good to have those goals and to write them down, all right? Tonight, groups. We got Michael over here, blended group, right?